POV, you are an observer seeking to prove the theory of relativity as fact. You have a telescope and an instant communications to a astronaut 1,000 light years away who traveled there on a spaceship that can reach 1,000 light years per hour. He left 1 hour ago and some odd minutes. On your telescope, you see the planet that he is on and its star 1,000 years ago. On the clock, you see it is 2020 military time, the 5th month, and the 5th month, 30th day, and sometime in the future. Or an XX. On your TV, you see the astronaut plant a flag with your instant communications, or superluminal communications that are instant, and it says it is, and it says the same thing. However, your telescope, which has 1,000 light year zoom, shows the planet without an astronaut on it, without a flag, and without a spaceship, and presumably 1,000 years ago. This begs the question: if the theory of relativity is true, then you are in the past, the astronaut is in the future. But but the evidence before you says otherwise. The evidence before you says you are not in the past, and you are both in the present. The only thing that's the only object that is in any state of time other than the present is the telescope, as it shows it in the past. So that's just what I want. I just made this art up based on what I say later in this video. I just wanted to get this out. I just wanted to give you a good example of my theory in action, my argument against the special theory of relativity. Now on to the video. Now on to the video. And welcome back to another, I guess, episode of Der999 Talks About. And there's one, and we got a good one this time. I mean that in actual positive-ish. Not really, no, I don't think so, but at least it's not negative. Oh yeah, it's that, at least it doesn't take away something you love. I think it might be. But yeah, reading the title, which I've been thinking about what the title should be, but I had the limits of putting it into the space which you could easily see on YouTube in the recommended list is hard, and make my argument clear, but it's something that boils down to why saying you can't go faster than the speed of light is stupid. That's the uncharitable way of saying it. But frankly, that's kind of what it is. It's relying on a lot of things. It's relying on a lack of understanding of a lot of basic concepts in life. In just everyday life. A lack of common sense. There are a lot of smart people that back up the theory of relativity. Of course, there are parts that are known, understood, and are not theory. But then there comes down to the prohibition, the causality and the prohibition of motion faster than light, which is just stupid because it relies on the fact that you never went anywhere in your life. Like, you were born, and you just never moved. Like you have no concept of travel. Because according to special theory of relativity, I don't know what Einstein actually said, and I should mention that I'm no scientographist. I mean, I am a scientist by base act of committing the act of science, but I'm not. I don't have a degree. I'm not one of these fancy people with a degree longer than my name. But I am the prophet. I'm one of the major prophets in history. Even if you've never heard of me, but that's only to come in time. Nor do you need to believe in God or know of God or whatever. Don't be a theist or whatever I am, because I know God. You can be atheist. You can be the guy on the street. It doesn't matter. You can be someone with a doctorate. It doesn't matter what I am. It only matters about my argument. Yes, I don't think I would ever write a scientific paper or anything like that, but that's just formality. But my point should be something that's clear to anyone, and someone that does have a doctorate, someone that does commit to science in the lab with a known institution and whatever, can back up these arguments. But essentially my argument is you can go faster than the speed of light due to the fact you can go faster than the speed of sound, due to the fact you can go faster than complete stationary, complete zero movement. Which, I realize this when thinking about it, there is no such thing as complete zero motion. You right now, assuming you're watching this around the time of this video release, you are on a planet in a solar system. You are on a planet orbiting a sun. You are not stationary. And not only that, you are on a planet as it turns. You are not stationary. You can be sitting in your chair thinking you're stationary, but in fact you're moving like a couple thousand miles an hour, because that's how fast the Earth spins. And then there's how fast the Earth moves around the sun, and then there's how fast the sun moves around, orbits the gigantic black hole in the middle of the galaxy. Then there's how fast the galaxy moves in the universe. And basically that stops there. But there is no absolute stationary unless you're from outside this universe. And even then, there may not be something that's absolute stationary. So what boggles my mind is, by reading this and having watched Isaac Author's videos and just my life of having the speed of light and how faster than light is considered folly by the academic community and by many people today, is again, they don't have the concept of motion. If you walk, according to special theory relatively, you just lost a couple nanoseconds of your life because you moved a few feet per hour or whatever, or meters per hour, what have you. It doesn't matter. And you could also argue the fact that a Concorde pilot or anyone that pilots an aircraft that moves faster than the speed of sound, effectively you're arguing that they have a shorter. You're effectively arguing they have they'll be older than their twin siblings. They're younger than their twin siblings. You're arguing that. You could be arguing that people who spent time on the space station are younger than their twin siblings. You're arguing that. You're also arguing, which, by the way, no one has ever tested this for some dumb reason. I don't know why. Test this is stupidly simple. All you gotta do is take something with a half-life of like a minute, or half-life of let's say, a half-life of, let's say, a week. Take an artificial something or other that has a half-life of a week, that means it dies within a week. It could even be like a fly, breed some flies, take a flight to space, see if the fly in space ages more than the fly that you left at NASA, left on the launch pad. It's that simple. Like, why hasn't anyone done this? Take something that you can actually measure the age of easily, because it dies within a time frame that is measurable to an average human audience, to an average human observer, and measure it. It's stupid simple. Because technically, the space station suffers from this spatial theory of relativity effect, where it's younger than it is on... It's younger... If you were born the same time the space station was born to orbit, you are in fact older than the space station. Despite if you were born literally the same second the space station achieved orbit, or was stationed, was plopped down in orbit, whatever you want to say, was built. And that's not how it works. Like, it's not how it works. You can prove it. You can prove me wrong or me right. All you gotta do is, again, take something that has a half-life or life of a week, make one on Earth, make one in the space station, and see who dies first. Simple, done, solved. You now know if faster than light is a thing or not. For absolute fact. Just like how one of the astronauts who went on the moon tested to see if a feather dropped from the same height as a hammer would be pulled down by gravity being the same. It will be pulled down the same because gravity is gravity. It was tested on the moon. It worked. Therefore, proving the theory and making it fact. Spatial theory relativity has tests done to prove some parts of it, but not this part. And it's stupidly simple in the modern day. I don't know why no one has done it. They're too busy cooking. They're too busy making cookies in space, I guess. Now that is not an honorable cause or something that should not be done, but you think spatial theory relativity should be proven first. It's a bit more important to the future of humanity, knowing that they can go faster than the speed of light. But I digress. And another thing that's kind of stupid is the assumption that modern academics have that when you move, okay, let's say you want to go to a star that's 1,000 light years from Earth. Your spacecraft is equipped with a FTL drive that is rated for 1,000 light years per hour. So, you take out your telescope and look at that star. You see the telescope, because you see 1,000 years of light, that it's 1,000 years old. You get in your spaceship, you travel an hour, you realize that telescope lied to you, because now it is 1,000 years late. Now it's 1,000 years later, and you can contact that guy on the telescope and say, "Hey, is this landmass the same as before? I'm gonna build like this little monument here or whatever. I'm gonna plant a flag, and tell me if you see that flag." And he plants down the flag. He plants down the flag. The observer on Earth has his telescope looking at the flag, looking at the same spot on that planet. Assuming this was possible, of course. Looking at the same spot on that planet in perfect clarity, and he sees nothing. He doesn't see the spacecraft, doesn't see the astronaut, doesn't see nothing. But on the TV next to him, he sees the guy plant the flag. Because this TV is faster than light, it has instant communication. Instant signal. So when the guy plants the flag, the observer sees both 1,000 years ago and right now, the present. Who is in the future? That's up to you, but who is in the future? Is the observer in the future, or the past? is the observer in the future because he can see the flag being planted 1,000 years from what his telescope is seeing, or 1,000 years later after his telescope is seeing, or is the astronaut in the future because he traveled faster than the speed of light? And now the astronaut is on this planet 1,000 years before the observer can see him through his telescope. But he can also see the astronaut on his TV in the present. Do you understand why the argument that you can't go faster than the speed of light is utterly stupid? To use a non-charitable word. I can't think of a charitable word right now, so I'm just saying it's utterly stupid. And this is based on my knowledge as a plebeian, to use an uncharitable term, as just a guy. But also think about it this way. Also, and the whole profit thing's going to come into right now, because the reason why I realized how stupid it was because I cannot foresee 100 years in the future, beyond 100 years in the future. Based on the impact, based on the impact of the event, for example, a new world order I can see coming to pass any time between now and 100 years from now, but I cannot see if, for example, Russia, for example, I cannot see 100 years from now what the Earth will look like. Would India be a superpower? Would Africa be a superstate? Will Russia survive? Will Russia conquer the Europe? I can't see that. But what I can predictably, within 80%, and the another 20% is obtainable because I just need to get more skilled with it and trust myself more. But I can, for example, predict an outcome of an RNG event. Like for example, I did this a ton during my Sunrider Let's Play, which you can watch and see me do it. Where I say, I am going to make this 3% attack, or I'm not going to make the 3% attack. And every single time, or 80% of the time, I was correct. Explain that, science. Explain that, atheists. Because I think what's random chance is like 40% or something like that. I do better than that, and I can do 100% if I am more experienced, which I need to practice more and trust myself more. Hence why we're doing this video, and I'm saying I'm a prophet. I need to trust myself more. But and the reason what got me onto this is I can only see the most major of events, or I can only foresee the most major of events happening, and up to 100 years. Like the most further thing, a new world order, could come to is likely to come to pass within 100 years. Well, no more than that. And I know for a fact that God, the big, the honcho, the big honcho, the guy I talk to every so often, I talk to every day, that guy, he can only foresee, roughly that long. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe not. God has plans, but he can't see it. Which may come to a shock to you if you believe in the past, present, and future are all predetermined. Like, for example, if you believe the United States was always meant to form. Well, 100 years before that, it was uncertain. 100 years before that, no. It wasn't. So God looking at the oldest timeline, the oldest universe, the universe that is furthest ahead, let's say he was looking at it in the 1600s, he would not be able to see England having a colony in America. He could see America because he can see it from space. He knows there are people living there, but he does not know He does not know if the actually he wouldn't know that there are colonies there. So let's go back further. Let's go back to like the medieval ages. He wouldn't know there would be an empire, an English empire, because that's what the British Empire was. It was English. They were the head honchos. At least I think so, from what I hear. They had the most power. They formed the thing. It was theirs. And which I have to agree with that. It's just a side point. Yeah, that's just thought of now. But he wouldn't have foreseen England. He wouldn't have been able to foresee England for a fact would make colonies in the Americas, the landmass that's to the west of Europe, or the continents that are western to Europe, eastern to Asia. He wouldn't know that they would have for certain made colonies, and those colonies would win a war for their independence with the help of France. We could probably foresee the fact that was if he could get he would have known that maybe if there was an English empire. Of course, I don't know my history again. I thought the day I'm speaking of is probably gonna be wrong, but my point is when England was fighting the rest of the British Isles, it was undetermined whether or not they could become an empire. And when they were fighting Wales, when they were fighting Saxony, not Saxony, Wessex and whatever, it was undetermined if they would make an empire, make colonies, make the United States, and the United States would be what became of those colonies. He would not know that in the first go-around, which is my terminology for the very, 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 very first timeline, which is unbeknownst to me, I can guess what it was like, but much like English, when the English were Celts, it would not be the English we speak of today. We speak today. It's not English I'm speaking right now. It is not English. It's not English. My descendant, my 100th great grandchild my times 100 great grandchild would be speaking if they still spoke English. And I cannot foresee what English would be like even 100 years from now. Which is something I realized when I was writing my distant sci-fi books, that I cannot predict the future more than 100 years out. It just doesn't happen. I just can't. Not that I really trove to a story anyway, but I specifically can't do it 100 years out. I could be right, I could be wrong. That's what free will is. Free will is the ability to determine the future. Make choices that determine the future. So this all comes down to, then my main point as to why you can't travel, then that's my main point why traveling faster than light, other than the example I shown before, why traveling faster than light wouldn't make you a time traveler is because if you traveled 100 light years and went 100 and traveled 100 light years and became 100 years younger, or however that works, however special theory of relativity words that would word it, but your sibling on Earth becomes 100 years old. Would by special theory of relativity become 100 years older. If you can't guess already, it took me a long time. to theorize. I only started theorizing this a year from now, or a year in the past. But if you travel 100 years in the future, and you travel 100 light years, so 100 years in the future, but let's say you're the first one to develop FTL technology, and you want to get John 100 light years. So to go 100 years in the future, to time travel 100 years in the future, or 101 light years, let's say that. 101 light years in the future, which is 1 year or more than what I can reasonably see, and what God can probably reasonably see. And his picture is much clearer than mine I'm the best. I'm the best human to have ever to have ever been able to foresee stuff, but God is much clearer. God knows it better, and that's not even discussing the fact that God can reset the universe and change events to his liking up until when he wants to essentially integrate that universe essentially keep that universe as one of his favorites. That's a discussion for another time, by the way. It's really complex. But in this case, so you travel 101 light years, and special relativity says you now travel 100 years in the future. I would like to say, how? How can one person, assuming that spaceship was manned by one person, or crewed as we say in the modern day, which is rather crude, I might add. But so this one astronaut went 101 light years, 100, and special theory relatively says 100 years in the future. Okay. How? So you're saying that, let's say he launched from Cape Canaveral in Florida, and he went 100 years, and he went 100, and special theory relativity says he's now 100 years in the future. Okay, so like what? How would that influence Cape Canaveral? How would that influence Florida? How would that influence the United States? How would that influence Earth? What is the connection? How would he be able to effectively become God and create events on Earth in Florida at Cape Canaveral? How? And if he travels 100 years back, 100 light years back, and then for another 100 years, therefore traveling 200 years in total, how would he done this thing to this random position in space? They didn't say it was going to a planet, but in this random position in space, would it have its events changed, or would Earth's? And if everything in the universe changed, how could one man effectively do that, or one drive, or however you want to logic it? How? Like, how? How can one man change an entire future who is not God? Like, how? How can he create this future? What is he doing? I mean, this is not some determinist like in the Foundation series, which was a great sci-fi novel series. This is not one guy planting the seeds. This was not one guy who could foresee the future because of technology, and therefore made sure these events happen by doing a lot of things. This is seriously just the guy got in his car and went to Texas and went to the next town over. Why would the guy get in his car or spaceship or what would the guy? And actually, this now let's use the same example, except change it from a spaceship to a car, and change the astronaut to just a guy. So this guy gets in his car and travels to the next town over, let's say 100 miles. I don't know where that would be, but regardless, this is just an example. Did he travel? He also traveled the future. He traveled 100 miles an hour, and therefore traveled closer to the speed of light, and therefore he should be younger than his twin cousin, or his twin. He left at the town. He left at the first. And he left at the first. He left at his start point, his house. That's essentially what special relativity is saying. He's saying if you get in your car, travel 100 miles an hour to a town that's 100 miles over, you are now into the future. It's stupid. It's not logical. It's not science. Not even science. It's just stupid. It just is. I don't have another word for it. I'm sorry, I don't have another word. It's just stupid. And the worst thing is, stupidest thing is, Einstein came up with this idea when he was traveling on a bus. He was literally traveling. Yeah, he didn't think, wait, I'm on this bus and I am traveling, therefore I'm approaching the speed of light, or I'm approaching the speed of light in the vast sense, as in, you travel a mile an hour, that's 1 mile an hour closer to the speed of light. It's just stupid. I'm actually thinking of another title, like the special theory of relativity is just stupid. Or parts of the special theory of relativity is stupid. Like, speed of light. Oh, and also, when I was writing my book, I was coming across these stupid things. Beyond this. But, like, why is the speed of light Celsius? Like, why? Actually, we can go, I'll link this page to it. I mean, it's not special relatively on Wikipedia, but it's like, it's C. The frickin' speed of light is C. Guess what else is Celsius? That's stupid. It should be SOL. I mean, that's almost another acronym, but it's just, that's stupid. I don't know why people people who have thousands of IQ or whatever, see that's speed of light is C. That's Celsius, dude. You didn't invent that. You see again? Like, you didn't invent, that boggles my understanding, that boggles my mind. I don't get it. I don't get it. But yeah. So let's wrap up this video before it gets too long. 30 minutes. About what I need. Where was I looking at? But yeah, that's what's been on my mind in terms of recently, and why I can't really watch Isaac Author anymore, because he doesn't like science fiction because of concepts like this, and that makes me sad face. Or, I mean, he likes science fiction, but he can't, but he says faster than light is impossible because a theory that doesn't make any logical sense when you apply it to other things. Science, in my mind, is, or what makes a law of the universe is simple. If you can apply it to everything, it's a law. If you can't, it's a theory and it's stupid. For example, 1 + 1 = 2. That is a fact. That is a... If you're arguing with me, I don't know why you're arguing with me. It's a fact. It's a known fact. At least in math, anyway. And people consider math a natural phenomenon, which is hard to argue with, but it's also kind of stupid because yeah, you can't really argue with it, but it doesn't sound right. It's equivalent to saying the English language is the natural form of communication. I mean, it's like saying the English language is the best, purest form of communication ever devised in the universe. It's like saying that, because of course there were other types of math and other types of numerals, like Roman numerals. While when you're counting, I'm going to count on my hand right now. 1, my pointer finger is 1, my middle finger is 2. 1, 2 in that order. That's how it works. But like, I don't think the sun cares about that. It only cares about It only cares about its fusion process going on inside of it, and that's about it. I don't think it cares about how nuclear physics works. Okay, it does care about how nuclear physics works, and fusion and the technology of fusion, but I don't think it cares about some biological life form on some random planet next to it, saying, "Oh, by the way, this is nuclear fusion. This is how it works. Here's look at my mystical chalkboard with these random scratchings on it, and this is how it all works." I don't think the sun cares about that. I really don't. For example, early humans only cared about the sun rising in the morning and the sun falling at night, and the moon rising at night. I don't think they cared about orbits. And I don't think they cared about orbital mechanics or the mass. They just knew every so often the sun rose and the sun set. That's it. But yeah. Not that math is a bad thing, mind you, but I think mathematicians take it a little too far by saying, if you don't do the math, then you're stupid. Because math can lead you in wrong directions too. It's known that. I can't really think of an example when math can mislead you, but yeah, it can. Like anything can. Like I can. Like you can. Like anyone can. But yeah, so if you want to have a discuss, if you want to discuss this with me in the comments below, please do. I'm looking for good faith arguments. I'm sorry if I offended you. I do truly apologize for that, but that's just how I feel right now. And I don't know what we're looking at this part of the page. Then there's this, which is really cool and gives you a really good understanding of spatial theory of relativity, but it's also stupid. Because essentially the observer determines the order of the events. If I'm understanding that correctly and phrasing it correctly. That's its argument. However, let's say this is World War I, this is World War II, this is the Cold War. And if we go in order of what the line's doing, the line is the order of the events. What's this line? They all happen simultaneously. What? How? How? Literally how? They might happen simultaneously in different universes. Different universes are different speeds. For example, the 1980s. If there are two parallel universes, one might be faster than the other. For example, universe on the left is what we would call the 1980s. The universe on the right is what we would call 1900. If you are able to see the other universe, then you'll be able to see that universe in that state. So let's say you're in 1900, you will be able to see the world as it stood in 1980, and vice versa. That's how some magic users work. People that are able to have dreams of the future from different, that they will be seeing different realities. Unless they're super powerful and have near godlike abilities like I do. Not too well harm, but it's as far as I can tell, it's what I can do. But anyway, so what's stupid is, and then you look at the line, like they all open simultaneously. Yes, the world was the world was both a Cold War between two superpowers. Also, the world was divided into the world had multiple superpowers in it, and then the same basic thing was in for another world. What? How? Literally, how does that work? How does this work? And then this one, Cold War happened first, Second World War, then First World War. Okay, explain to me, how can Soviet Union exist first before it existed? Like, lol? Like, how? and then this one, and then this one is the correct one. I, they're really smart people working on this, yet they're so stupid. They're making massive mistakes based on the lack of understanding how the natural world, how life works effectively. It's really quite stupid. Again, I apologize for using my word, but I have no better word for it. I have no better word for you now. Okay, but anyway, we went on far too long. Thanks for watching. Do appreciate watching on this video. It means a lot to me. Also means a lot to me if you were to check out the rest of the stuff in the description below, such as various sports channel, of course, various sports channel for watching this video, gauge the content we produce, and by sharing your friends, family, and list, yeah. I hope I didn't offend you too much, and I would love to have a discussion in the comments, and I'm really hoping the field does well too. And I'm hoping to do more videos like this where I discuss things, my viewing of the world based on my experience, based on my experiences and whatever, being the prophet. And yeah, and I do call myself the prophet because while there are a few other prophets alive right now, I think, I'm the biggest, baddest one. So I get to be the one. But anyway. Alright, that'll be it for now. Thanks for watching. So that, best way to support, so that, and yeah, alright. Share with anyone you know. Share with everyone you know, and I guess, and of course, the best way to support this video is just by watching, and I guess, see you in a second.